DFA is so much about collaboration and working with people that we really wanted to make sure the whole studio felt ownership of the process. And so we took a vote on our topic, and a lot of people had either personal experience or from someone else that they knew having experience with mental health issues. So we decided to kind of focus in that area. But we wanted to focus more on high schoolers so that we were able to like kind of step away and not be our end user, but actually like be kind of a step removed and be able to actually learn what somebody else was going through.
So during the immerse days, since we don't have direct access to high school students since they are minors, we talked with a lot of community partners and we attend meeting of the local community just to help us have a better understanding but not making assumptions about our users. We also do a course or exercise with freshmen at Texas State since they are closer group age with high school students.
After we kind of looked through that research and looked at what the community partners had said and the research that we'd been doing online, we as a studio went back and kind of found where there were overlaps in what we had been learning and what kind of common themes were recurring throughout that. And we found that there were three main ones. There was a lack of community, a lack of communication skills, and a lack of transportation to be able to access the resources that are there. So to help us kind of brainstorm what we could do, we ended up posing our questions or posing our ideas in the form of a question of how might we solve X? And so from that, we had everyone in the studio do that, and everyone wrote down all the ideas that they'd been having coming out of the research and plotted those on a big whiteboard with the things at the base of the board being things that are really inexpensive or really easy to implement, and then the things up at the top of the board being really difficult to implement or maybe not even physically possible at this point. And then kind of saw where there were overlaps in everyone's ideas and ended up narrowing that down to 4 main ideas that we could then ideate into a solution.
From the 4 how might we questions we come up with after the reframe, during the ideations, we try to come up with as many ideas as possible. And then the next step is we select the best idea by cluster our ideas into a theme of similarities and pick the best one that have more impact and also not too easy to implement, and also and answer the how might we questions. For each how might we question, we try to identify our desired objective, the user, the location we can reach them, and the feature and values of the solution that should be.
Since we had narrowed those how might we questions down to 2 final questions, we ended up splitting our studio into 2 project teams and worked independently on those 2 ideas. The group I was working with, we decided to work on how can we bring community partner activities closer to where students live and play. And so we started by looking at maps and data about where students lived, where community partners were located, and common spaces that students could have access to. And how those overlapped. And so since we were wanting students to really be able to build a community and be able to find support from one another, learn how to communicate with one another off of their phones, we decided the best course of action was to create this bus that community partners could all sponsor. All the organizations working with mental health could sponsor these different activities, but fun activities where students are actually going to want to come and it not be intimidating or stigmatized. And so the students could actually come and enjoy art or craft or games or things like that, and get to know the community partners so that when they did have an issue in their life, they would already have access and have a relationship with the people that could actually help them. And since an event is kind of hard to prototype, we ended up doing a pop-up event to kind of test it, and we had games and snacks and button making out of old comic books and an interest workshop to help them discover their passions. And by the end of it, the students were asking, when are we going to have another one? When can we do this again? They were so enjoying it and so enjoying getting to know one another. Where they had all come in independently, they all left in one big group and went and hung out together, which was really great to see.
So with the same desired objective with the first group, bringing the activity and mental health resource closest to high school student, we develop a concept of flow, which is a flow chart that guides students to the right resource that they need depends on their mental health issues. So we develop a prototype flow to it's a print versions of an applications, so we can actually test with them and iterate on the flow chart, and until we get more feedback and do more iteration, we think about bringing the flow concept into a more sustainable platform. It can be a software installed at a school computer or a library computer or an app.
Yeah, and it was fun to get to see what you guys had come up with, and then versus what our group had come up with, and how related they ended up being, even though we had started in kind of different places. And so as a studio, we kind of talked about these were two ideas that we could kind of form into one final idea. And then at our final expo, we asked people to give us feedback and choose one prototype or the other. And a lot of people gave us really great feedback, but most of them ended up voting for both design objectives and wanted both prototypes to become a real thing. So we're going to be working with the San Marcos High School in the fall and try and bring both of these into one big idea and bring it to life. Yeah.